Hello, a very good afternoon and a warm welcome to the News International edition on this 11th day of January 2023. We are broadcasting to you live from our Vision Group headquarters here in Kampala, Uganda. I'm Emma Akwero. Let's start off our news today from the US, where aerial images show two cars inside a giant sinkhole that opened up on Tuesday during the relentless storms ravaging California. According to local media, the passengers were rescued and hospitalized with minor injuries. Torrential downpours in the U.S. have caused flash flooding, closed key highways, toppled trees, and even swept away drivers and passengers. The extreme weather will not be limited to California only. The NWS said with the system that caused Tuesday's rainfall working its way through the country and likely to cause thunderstorms over central and southern areas.
A major cyclone is said to hit the U.S. state of California with up to 7 inches of rain on Wednesday, the National Weather Service said, after tens of thousands of people were placed under evacuation orders due to a barrage of storms that killed at least 17 people. On Tuesday, torrential downpours caused flash flooding, closed key highways, toppled trees, and swept away drivers and passengers, including a 5-year-old boy who remains missing in Central California. Around 66,000 homes and businesses in the most populous U.S. state were without power early on Wednesday, according to tracking site poweroutage.us. The new storm will hit Northern California and is forecast to bring several more feet of snow to the Sierra Nevada mountains, the National Weather Service said. The National Weather Service described an unrelenting series of atmospheric river events that is the most powerful storm system since 2005. An enormous cyclone rotating well off the west coast will bring the next round of heavy precipitation and gusty winds on Wednesday, this time targeting Northern California, the service's latest advisory said. California Governor Gavin Newsom said at least 34,000 people had been told to flee the storms, with more danger expected. Hundreds of square miles were scorched, stripping the hillsides of the vegetation that normally keeps soil in place. Authorities in San Luis Obispo County called off a search for a 5-year-old boy because rushing waters were too dangerous for drivers, Fox News reported, quoting a county official. The child, who fled with his mother from their car as it was inundated by flood waters, had not been declared dead. 2 motorists died in a crash north of Bakersfield after a tree crashed onto a road. Heavy rain is not unusual for California during winter, but these downpours are testing the state. They come as much of the western United States is more than 2 decades into a punishing drought that has seen major increases in the frequency and intensity of wildfires.
Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin says that China's response to the discriminatory measures imposed by other countries in the wake of its current coronavirus wave is just unreasonable. He said this during the daily press briefing. The national immigration authorities have, with immediate effect, suspended the issuance of visas for Korean and Japanese citizens, and the 144-hour visa-free transit policy for South Korean and Japanese citizens, the China's National Immigration Administration has said in a statement.
Beijing said Wednesday it would scrap visa-free transit for South Korean and Japanese citizens, stepping up a diplomatic tit-for-tat after both countries placed travel curbs on visitors from China. South Korea and Japan have in recent weeks imposed fresh travel requirements on all visitors from China as the world's most populous country battles a surge in COVID cases. China's reciprocal response to light of relevant countries' discriminatory measures against China is not only to safeguard the legitimate rights and interests of its own citizens, but also to maintain a necessary environment for normal exchanges and cooperation between countries. Our response is just and reasonable. China hit back at what it deems unacceptable curbs, ending short-term visas for all South Korean and Japanese citizens on Tuesday. We once again call on relevant countries to proceed from facts, take appropriate and scientific measures, and make joint efforts to create favorable conditions for normal personnel exchanges and cooperation. Immigration authorities stepped up that retaliation Wednesday in response to the recent discriminatory entry restrictions imposed by a few countries on Chinese citizens. The Asia-Pacific region is a high ground for peaceful development, not an arena for geopolitical games. China is a cooperative partner for all countries, not a challenge to any country. Defense cooperation between relevant countries should be conducive to enhancing mutual understanding, trust and cooperation among countries. It should not create imaginary enemies, let alone introduce the old mentality of bloc confrontation into the Asia-Pacific region. Travelers from scores of countries are eligible for 72-hour visa-free transit through China if they can show proof of pending travel to a third country, with some eligible for a 144-hour stay in certain cities and provinces. The policy was complicated by the pandemic, with China requiring all inbound travelers to undergo mandatory quarantines, a requirement lifted on Sunday. Tokyo said Wednesday it had protested China's decision to scrap short-term visas for its citizens, demanding that Beijing reverse the decision.
Still in China, health authorities say that it was not necessary to focus on COVID-related death causes at a time when several countries and the World Health Organization have said Beijing's data on the epidemic is not transparent. Beijing said on Wednesday in defense of scrapping visa-free transit for South Korean and Japanese citizens, stepping up a diplomatic tit-for-tat after both countries placed travel curbs on visitors from China. China's COVID-19 data is not giving an accurate picture of the situation there, and this underrepresents the number of hospitalizations and deaths from the disease, a senior official of the World Health Organization has said on January 4th.
I don't think it's necessary to look into the death cause of every case at present. The key task during the pandemic should be the treatment. At present, from a global perspective, the focus is to overcome the pandemic, overcoming the period of COVID-19 as a public health emergency of global concern. After that, we can look back to see how to classify cause of death. If consensus can be reached globally on the death cause of COVID, it would be the best. If consensus cannot be reached, each country will classify it according to its own situation. We have passed the peak of infection of the first wave, though the severe disease is still in a platform state, but we have survived its impact.
With the release of his autobiography, Spare, Prince Harry has said that claims that he was boasting when he wrote in his new book about killing 25 Taliban fighters in Afghanistan are a dangerous lie. The prince has been criticized for discussing killings in Spare, with some military figures saying it was wrong to refer to the dead as chess pieces. However, on US TV, Harry accused the press for taking his words out of context and said the spin endangered his family. He also defended his remarks, saying that he wanted to reduce veteran suicide.
Spare, which was published on Tuesday, has become the first-selling non-fiction book ever in the UK.
Money man. Hey, money man. Thank you.
No, my brother is taking it from him.
Some 400,000 copies of the memoir have been bought, despite many excerpts being leaked in the press ahead of its official release. In a wide-ranging interview with Stephen Colbert on The Late Show, the first conducted after details from the book were published, Harry suggested there had been attempts to undermine his book, spoke of his fractured relationship with his brother, and attacked the bigoted British press. Harry said writing the book had been a cathartic experience and the most vulnerable he had ever met in his life, while also leaving him feeling stronger. However, he added, the last few days have been hurtful and challenging, not being able to do anything about those leaks. In his condemnation of the media coverage, Harry claimed outlets had intentionally chosen to strip away the context of his account. It's really troubling and very disturbing that they can get away with it. My words are not dangerous, but the spin of my words are very dangerous to my family. That is a choice they've made. Harry said he had wanted to be honest about his experience in Afghanistan and to give veterans the space to share theirs without any shame. Harry also claimed Buckingham Palace attempted to undermine the stories told in the memoir, assisted by the British press. A Buckingham Palace spokeswoman declined to comment on the claim and other allegations made by Harry in the book. When asked about his brother Prince William allegedly pushing him over during an argument, he showed the audience the necklace that was broken in the incident. Ex-army officer Colonel Richard Kemp, who oversaw forces in Afghanistan, said he was concerned at references to dead Taliban sergeants as chess pieces, saying such descriptions could give propaganda to the enemy.
The News International edition will now take a short break, but please stay with us.
Urban.